Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cherry the Geek TV. I'm Joe Vanourney. The Sisters Grimm is a new animated fantasy adventure series premiering globally on Apple TV Plus Friday, October 3rd. Today, we are joined by Amy Higgins, who is the showrunner, executive producer of The Sisters Grimm, as well as Michael Buckley, who is an executive producer, as well as the author of the New York Times best-selling book series, The Sisters Grimm, of which this animated series is based. Amy and Michael, welcome to Cherry the Geek TV.
Thanks,
Hello.
Joe.
Amy, set up the show for people. What is the Sisters Grimm?
Wow, it's a great story. Sisters Grimm is a show about two sisters whose parents have disappeared. They find out very suddenly they are descended from the Brothers Grimm and that all the fairy tale characters that they've heard about are real. And they go on a journey to find their parents and find themselves in a town in upstate New York called Ferryport Landing, where in fact it is filled with ever afters.
And Michael, you are the author of the book series of which this is based. Talk about the origin of the books. What was the inspiration behind them?
Well, I was reading a copy of this book called The Annotated Brothers Grimm, just curious about their lives, and discovered that they had a lot of siblings. They had a bunch of brothers and they had a bunch of sisters, and that kind of sparked it. The Sisters Grimm was something that started rattling around in my head, and I did some research to find out if anybody had ever written a book called The Sisters Grimm, or a TV show. And I started working it out as a television show because I had was doing that in the beginning of my career. Everybody I showed it to really loved it, but they kept saying, "This isn't a TV show, this is a book," which would always make me mad because honestly, I have ADHD. The idea of me writing a book seemed fantastic. I mean, I don't know where commas go. I don't know how to construct a sentence. Um, and then somebody told me, don't actually need to know how to spell or how to write a sentence. Your editor needs to know how to do those things. And I was like, oh, people help you write books? I did not know that. And so I started writing the book, and lo and behold, it was waiting for me inside my head. The whole thing, the world, it was like it had been there all along. So when I opened up the doors, it just started spilling out, and before I knew it, I wasn't trying to make TV shows anymore. I was a full-time children's book author, which is basically what I've been for the last 20 years.
Amy, what was it about the books and this story that spoke to you and made you want to take on this project?
I love that question. I have had at the time I was sort of finishing another show and I had a bunch of books on my desk and a lot of projects and I was kind of, siphoning through them and this one came and at the center is this very complicated female who, you know, is a teenage girl who is at first glance not, you know, pancakes pancakes and syrup. She is a little sharper, she's a little bit more barbed, she's very, critical and suspicious of the world. And I thought, oh, I've not seen that. And I want to write that character because characters like that, tend to have a lot of softness underneath. And that's an automatic journey that I want to go on. And again, I just hadn't seen it before. I hadn't seen someone who, is a little harder to like up front. And the other part about it that I really liked that I hadn't seen, I feel like in an animated series, there was a real groundedness to these two characters in their real life. And I try to leave, space for myself to say, what would I do? What would I do if I were suddenly on this, a train in upstate New York? I got off and I found out the fairy tale characters were real. Like, how would my experience of that be? And I love that. And I also love thematically, these are about girls who kind of been living through this trauma and they got to sort of find a new way for themselves, make a new family for themselves with their grandmother that they hadn't known. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. I like, center is Sabrina, tricky character. Let's bring that to life. Let's let people like take a little time to get to know her. Yeah. And so I said yes.
And Michael, the first book came out 20 years ago, right? So I'm sure over the past 20 years, there have been talks or thoughts about adapting this into a different medium, film or television, etc. What was it about Amy that made you say this is the right time? She's the right person to work with and collaborate on this project.
I would say as soon as the book came out, somebody optioned it. And those options would expire, and somebody else would come in the next day and take it. And people tried to make movies out of it. They tried to make TV shows out of it. But they always wanted to change it in some ways that I never truly understood the point of view. I mean, when Twilight was huge. People were like, could we put vampires in it? And there was like somebody was like, could we make them into boys? And I'm like, well, the title is the Sisters Grimm. You don't get the title. So you know, the blessing is that Amy finally came along. I don't know where she was. We could have used her a long time ago. But she got it, and she knows it almost as well, maybe even better than I do. And she had a nice point of view on how to do this story. Like I said, and like what Amy said, Sabrina is not she's not a sweet, um, easy person. She battles and she goes into conversations with her fists clenched and we just hadn't seen too much of that. Girls on television are not allowed to have personalities. They are supposed to be sidekicks and ciphers and really just there to serve the needs of the boy main character. And I just didn't know any women in my life who were that passive. I mean, all the women in my life have been strong and independent and fierce, and when I started writing this book, there just weren't any books like that for girls. And in fact, my editors were a little nervous that like girls wouldn't be into it. But 20 years later, it's still selling. We now have a television show on it, and I think it's shown that girls want to be the heroes too.
Well, we are sadly almost out of time. Before we go, I'll wrap it up with this question: what do you hope audiences take away from the Sisters Grimm when they watch it? Amy?
I think I want them to take away that they get to be the person writing their own story. That are fairy tales are theoretical, but they get to be the truth because you get to write your own story no matter kind of what traumas or what sort of like bad things happen to you or good things. You get to sort of make your own life. That's the main theme of the first season, and I really want people at the end to say, yeah, I get to choose who and what I want to be.
Yeah, I think what I'd like people to come away with this is that we live in such a complicated time right now where people cannot see eye to eye, and everybody has a very, very loud point of view. And this is a story of a young girl who's a little bit like that, and has to learn compassion and empathy and kindness to maneuver through the world, which is something we all need a refresher course in these days.
Well, it's a fun, remarkable show. It's called The Sisters Grimm. All episodes premiere globally on Apple TV Plus Friday, October 3rd. Michael and Amy, thank you so much for chatting with us today on Cherry the Geek TV.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Welcome to Fairyport Landing.
Whoa! Sabrina! Daphne! The fairy tale characters you've read about are real, and your ancestors brought them to live here in Fairyport Landing.
Whoa! There's so many ever afters here.
I'm afraid you're going to start learning the truth about your parents.
We're descended from the Brothers Grimm?
Girls, were there red handprints on the car the night your parents disappeared? I know it's connected to whomever summoned this giant. If we figure that out, we might find your parents too.
Mom, Dad, I'm coming to get you.
Like it or not, you're special.
Now we're ready for anything. Daphne, this is all connected to Mom and Dad somehow. We'll find out why. Together.
We are Grimms.
Wow.
It is in your blood. You are the writer of your own stories.
for adventure.